Welcome into That's Boxing, episode, I've actually completely lost count now. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm good, Dust. I'm feeling pretty good. We better just not try to even count episodes because we're going all the way, man.
Right.
We're going to be in the thousands eventually.
We're at the legendary status already, I feel like, so it's like, what's the point?
Yeah, I got an email the other day. I'm not sure who it was from, but it was like, we're so impressed with your success, That's Boxing. Well, you need to sign up for our program.
Was it from a Nigerian prince?
It might have been, yeah.
Yeah,
but we got fans out there.
That sounds about right. Well, I was feeling kind of sick last week. It was a tough week, but laid up. But I feel like the boxing god smiled on me because there were just fights every night: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, card after card. I appreciate it. You know, it's nice. It's nice when we coordinate schedules like that.
Well, it was supposed to be a quiet weekend for boxing, but it ended up being pretty explosive.
Yeah, they were good fights. You know, I got to say, we got a couple to run through. Some big news to cover, and then we got to get into this big the second Amazon Prime card.
Prime time coming.
Good fights there. Got some good predictions. Got some hot takes coming your way.
We're gonna see, man.
All right, let's get into it. First on my notes is Broner losing a tooth.
Wow, yeah. I mean, you can't really call it a fall from grace because he hasn't been very graceful these last few years. He's been kind of considered washed up for maybe 5 or 6 years now. So it's sad to see. I don't like to see a fighter still out there and then getting embarrassed and losing. But you know what? He got up and he fought on,
Yeah,
toothless.
he didn't look terrible in the fight, but that was a brutal knockdown. Looked like it was over there.
Yeah, great recovery skills because that was a perfectly placed left hand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just on the money. Perfect southpaw delivery. That's what you want to do.
Yep.
And he went down hard, Broner did, and it came out later and said that he had hurt his shoulder and his elbow in that fall.
Yeah, I think he tore his labrum or something.
He said torn and fractured.
Yeah.
Torn shoulder, fractured
two words
elbow.
you don't want to hear in combination with your...
Well, it's a bad knockdown when your arm gets about twisted up behind you when you hit the deck.
I thought when I was watching it live, I was like, oh, he spit his mouth guard out, like kind of veteran move, right, to buy himself a little bit more time. But then when I watched the replay knowing the tooth, it's like, oh, no, he's actually spitting his tooth out. Brutal.
That's rough. It was hard to see. I mean, talk about wasted... I don't know. He was a 4-weight champion in his time. And once upon a time, he was considered to be the next somebody.
Yeah.
But that never really came to pass. And it's a good cautionary tale for young fighters to look out for because I'm telling you what, at that stage in his career, he shouldn't be fighting on a Don King card for whatever they were paying him. And he shouldn't be losing on a Don King card and getting his tooth knocked out. It's the end of a real sad story for his boxing life. And I hope he takes this well and is okay because I do care about everybody, especially these guys that have been giving their life to the sport.
Well, I think it shows partially that boxing is a sport of consistency, and it's difficult to maintain it for some people. Even with talent and opportunity, it's not enough to put together kind of a cohesive career at the top.
Yeah, I think he was considered kind of uncoachable, kind of wanted to run his own show his whole career, wanted to have a rap career, about these rappers, how these guys are.
Yeah, untrustworthy.
Yeah. So he was like, oh, in between my boxing matches, I'm going to be a rapper and I'm going to go tour and party and then I'll come back and just beat people up. Because he had such natural talent. His timing, his punches were perfect, but that's not enough at the high level. You have to be a complete package, and it's clear that he's not.
Yep. Well, two other prospects kind of got their moment to see if they are the complete package. The next night on the ESPN card, Xander Zayas and Shushu Carrington. What did you think of these two fights? Let's talk about Shushu first. I thought he was pretty impressive.
Yeah, he definitely stole the show, man. I mean, he put on quite a performance, and he had some opposition. His opponent, DeGracia, was there to fight. He was a late-minute replacement, but he was ready. He was on another lined up with a different opponent. So he was ready to go. He'd been training, and he looked like it, too. He looked strong. He was really loading up that left hook counter in the early rounds, and it was like, whew, if he lands that thing, it's going to change the course of this fight. And he landed clean on Shushu a few times.
Yeah, I thought Shushu, I agree. Shushu showed a lot in this fight. He was able to show, reserve. Like you said, he had a game opponent. He took some shots, took them well, so he got to show his chin. And then he showed his ability to kind of put pressure on in different rounds and kind of fight like a true, multi-round fight where I was wondering, and I bet the knockout. So I was like, is he going to do it? Is he putting it together? Is he going to, at a certain point, it was clear he was going to win on points. But he put the pressure on at the right time and the right pace and got the guy out of there.
Yeah, well, he went low a couple times, and that I don't think it was intentional, but it was just a product of his kind of looping lead
He hit the
hand
guy in
punch.
like the thigh, right?
Yeah, he hit him in the hip one time, caused a break, which is legitimate. Let the guy rest because a hip punch is really immobilizing. But it just shows. I think his game plan really was to go to the body, and unfortunately, he was just a few inches low a couple times, and there's nothing malicious there. But he really dug to the body, which paid off later in the fight when you saw DeGracia slow down and his movement kind of decrease, and then he was a sitting target for the power punches.
Right.
And down he went a couple times.
Well, there was a monster in the stands watching him. You think Inoue is in his future?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a fight that should be made anytime soon. But you got to remember, Carrington is 27 years old. Mm-hmm. He's not a kid. He's not a Abdullah Mason. He's not a Kermel Moton.
Right.
He's clearly a very talented boxer, but he's been on the shelf for whatever reason, and now it's his time to shine. So if he's going to make a fight like that happen, well, they're in the different weight classes. That either means I don't think he's going down any lower. I don't think Carrington's cutting the 4 more pounds. Eventually, the monster's going to move up to wherever he needs to be, but I don't see that fight happening right away. Inoue was in town for something else. He was in town for the Boxers Writing Association's award for Boxer of the Year, Fighter of the Year, and they took him to the Dodgers versus Yankees at the stadium and all that stuff. So I think it was more out of respect for Bob and out of respect for, hey, Bob probably said, hey, you got to come see this kid. He's really good, you know. And because he came, he watched, he waved and left.
Yeah, he took off.
He said, I'm not sticking around for Zayas.
Yep.
And you got to consider the time difference, too. That might have been like 3 a.m. for him.
Right, 3 a.m, 2 days from now. From him.
Yeah. Living in the future. That's why he's so good at boxing.
That's
He's
why
always a couple days ahead of us.
Bullet time, man. He sees things like the Matrix.
Yeah.
Well, Shushu, definitely impressed. I mean, he looks like the total package to me. I'm excited.
You notice he switched into southpaw there in the later rounds.
He did.
And started kind of dribbling a little bit and really feeling himself. And his defense was so impressive.
On point.
His timing, his defensive timing was just shining. It's so beautiful. And it was a great performance. And it definitely stole the show because, as you know what happened next, Zayas went the distance.
Yep. Killed my parlay because I took the double knockout, which is the top ranked special. But Zayas goes in there, and Tim Bradley was pretty tough on him. I thought, essentially a lot of the commentary was like, "Hey, you got to get this guy out of here, or nothing, or you lose." Which I understand the expectation maybe is for you to do that, but he won every single round of this fight. He pieced the guy up. His opponent was game again, savvy veteran. Came there, to do more than survive, but it was clear that it was important to him to not get stopped. And he played the fight that way, and he earned a little bit of respect. But Zayas dominated that fight every single round. And to me, that's an impressive performance.
Yeah, there's always pressure on a guy to get the KO when it's your show. It's his debut as a headliner. It's a Puerto Rican Day Parade. It's just all this pressure and all this stuff. He was signed to Top Rank when he was 17. Now he's 21 being a headliner. So.
Right.
The pressure was on. But I prefer a nice boxing match, a competitive ebb and flow of back and forth, than just a KO. So I was happy with the fight, too. And he was in there with a real veteran. This guy knows how to box. He beat Carlos Adames. He's gone up and down in weight classes. This is his lower weight class option. This is a working man. They say, we want you at 154. He says, how much are you going to pay me? They say, we want me at 168. How much are you going to pay me? He's a working boxer, and he knows how to play the game, and he knows how to not get hurt. He was putting some savvy footwork in there, using that southpaw slide, and looking nice all through the fight. He was never really out of it. He was just never really all the way in it. He didn't land anything substantial, but I think we saw Zayas struggle with his first southpaw opponent.
Yep.
He couldn't really, use his jab as much as he should have, and when he was trying to load up, he was coming up a little short because of the footwork battle. So overall, good performance. You don't need to get a knockout to be impressive, but I think the fans wanted it. I think the story would have been better, and that's why Shushu stole the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Still excited about his career, excited to see where he goes next. Doesn't take any shine off of him, to me, not getting the stoppage, but definitely did show some things that he needs to work on. And
yeah, I thought there was moments there where, call me crazy, but because of his build and some of his reflexive movements, I was like, there's a little bit of Canelo in here. A little bit of some mid-range bobbing and weaving that looked really nice, but then he would get cracked.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, well, that's where the difference is. Where Canelo wouldn't have gotten hit with that third punch. Mm-hmm. And he can get better. He's young enough to get better.
He is, I think, that mid-range fighter, which I agree. I can see the Canelo there, right, where it doesn't want to smother his work on the inside and do a lot of clinching and holding and things like that, and isn't quite the back foot jabber from the outside. Mm-hmm. So if he's gonna stand at that mid-range, which is the most dangerous place at the end of your opponent's punches, yeah, he's got to tighten up that defense.
Yeah, and they'll move him along. He'll get the big fight eventually, but for his debut, a great show, good showing, and his stock only goes up. It's top rank. The main event, the guy's gonna win.
Yeah, exactly. That's the top rank special, man.
Yeah, he's just careful with the KOs with him because I don't know if he's got the power to knock these guys out.
He's had a pretty good KO streak. I usually just bet both the top ranked fighters parlay straight up. That works almost every time. The fix is in, basically. Appreciate you, Bob. But I was feeling good that night. It felt like felt like knockouts were in the air. And Shushu got it done, but Zayas, you owe me $200. Let's get to some boxing news. Obviously, most important is Ryan Garcia watch.
Wow.
Man gets arrested for vandalizing a hotel room. The funniest thing about that, I read the article, and I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was something like $20,000 worth of damage.
I think it's 15.
15, and I'm like, I'm sorry, this man didn't just break you off a check for 4 times that?
Well, what I read was that anything over $400 is a felony for property damage in California.
If they
that's
press
ridiculous.
It, but they got a call.
Remember when your window got broken and somebody stole your boxing gear? That property damage for that window was probably more than $400. This fucking bum out here getting a felony.
Good, find him, lock him up forever. I want my fucking boxing gloves back. Those were lucky.
It's ridiculous the way these laws are written, but the guy's got plenty of cash. He could buy the fucking hotel.
That's what I'm saying. He couldn't just pay this off. I'm just guessing, obviously, that it was personal. They were like, bro, fuck you. Because they said the property manager or hotel manager or whatever actually pressed charges and was like, no, arrest this guy.
Well, there's a lot to consider here, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but you got to consider that the facts came out that his family made a wellness check call, and the police came on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then this drama and the arrest happened on Saturday. So you can see the manager dealing with this for however long.
Right.
Why are you living in the hotel, kid? You got mansions all over the place. You got probably one here, one there, one over there too. So what are you doing living in the hotel? Even though it's the Waldorf Astoria, I'm sure it's a nice joint, but go home, dude. And then, so he's probably holed up in there either having a mental breakdown or doing drugs, and it's just not a good story, man.
No, I mean this kid's nuts. I think there's no. I hate seeing anybody sugarcoat it. Kid's crazy, but we'll keep you up to date, Garcia.
Man.
Watch.
Hopefully, he gets his shit together. Gets the help he needs.
Also, in the news, Crowley out of the fight with Boots.
That's a bummer for Crowley. That was such a great opportunity.
Yeah,
and out he goes.
And it was a eye problem, right? His eye is not recovering fast enough, and the ophthalmologist just said, "No, can't do it."
You know how we say that's boxing.
That's boxing. Well, Avanesyan steps in. He's a game opponent. I think he obviously got stopped by Crawford. Was that his last fight? I think it might have been.
It might have been, and his last fight on the radar, at least. What this is lead to, because it was a Crawford victim, a Crawford opponent, that now people will compare their performances. Right. And I don't expect Boots to let this guy out of there on his feet. He's going to get him out of there 4 or 5 probably.
Yeah. Well, if he gets him out of there a round faster than Crawford did, it'll just add fuel to the fire.
Fuel to the fire. Yeah, everybody wants to see that showdown.
Yeah. Also in the news, Bomac gets Trainer of the Year. Very glad that England let him out of customs to come and accept his award.
So. Rightfully so. Definitely earned Trainer of the Year. Now let's hope the curse doesn't strike. Mm-hmm. Because you know how it goes. These guys get Trainer of the Year one year, and the next year, all their fighters are losing.
Yep. I don't think that'll happen to him. He's got a good...
No, he's a real working man, too. I listened to an interview recently, and he still works with his lower-level guys and goes on the road trips with them, driving all the way from Philly down to Florida for these fights and, putting in the hours. He's not just a celebrity trainer. He's a real grassroots man.
Yeah. Every time I hear him interviewed, hear him talk, I'm like, man, this guy just gets it. I don't know. He's always impressed me.
He didn't get the note that you're not supposed to take the strap to England.
Hey, it's dangerous over there. You need a leg up.
Yeah, well, I think he flew in on a private jet and tried to leave on the regular airline.
Do you think he just forgot it in this bag? Because you got to know, right?
I don't know. If you're about that life, you might just be used to having that thing all the time.
But you just think it's going to be all good? They're not. Dude, I was taking the fucking train out of London. I flew in, checked my bag, and I had a butterfly knife. Uh-huh. And, flew in. Obviously, they're not checking it in your checked luggage. But getting on the train, they did. And it was like a huge deal. Like DEFCON 1, they zip tied my hands to a chair for 2 hours. They were freaking me out, telling me I'm going to go to jail. It's a felony there. It's gang affiliated. And I'm like, they're like, where'd you get this thing? And I'm like, dude, my mom gave it to me for like my 13th birthday.
Could you do cool tricks with it though?
Oh yeah. And
That's-
they're like asking me because they're obviously like fascinated with this strange American creature. Like, why would you have this? And I'm like, what do you to cut stuff? What?
It's just an
It's
interesting
a
knife.
tool. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? You don't ever use a knife?
It's just cool. Like Americans like cool shit, like guns and knives and fucking
It was crazy.
survival weapons, all kinds of cool stuff.
They cut me loose eventually, but it's intense over there, man.
Well, I'm glad they let him out, and I'm glad he got back because definitely well deserved.
Well
Hardworking
deserved.
man.
Well deserved. Any other news? I think that's the big news I got. Should we move on to the fights coming up this week? It's going to be a big weekend of boxing.
Yeah, let's talk about what's coming because it's prime time, man.
Yeah.
Hope you got that Amazon Prime subscription and you're ready to press buy on another pay-per-view.
What do you think this one's going to run?
Oh, God, whatever they want, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically two main events in one. If they say $80,
I'm giving it like a 1.5 event
yeah.
because neither guy's fighting maybe who they should be fighting.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's start at the top and work our way down because they put Tank at the headline.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to start at the top? I think we got to go in reverse, or you got to build up the suspense.
Oh, man. All right. Well, let's just do it your way, Dust.
Well, I got our ad revenue. We got to keep people hooked till the end.
That's true. We are sponsored by Box Rope this month.
Oh yeah. What's going on with Box Rope?
Well, they reached out to me and decided that they were going to help me sponsor my jump rope jump off event that I have every year here at McConnell's Boxing, where we do jump rope competition and have a lot of fun. So shout out to Box Rope.
What day is that?
That's going to be June 23rd.
So if you're in Portland, you should probably be there
If you want to get your jump rope on.
if you got hops. Okay. I love Box Rope. Shout out Box Rope. I have 2 Box Ropes personally.
Damn.
Because you got to have one at home. I got to have one in the bag, so I don't
One
forget
for
it.
each hand.
One for each hand. That's my trick you're about to see. Yeah. All right. Reverse order. Carlos Adames versus Terrell Gosha. Kind of got the email champ versus the gatekeeper. How do you see this fight going down?
This is a great chance for Adames to prove he's supposed to be here. You know, he got the belt, and he should have fought for this belt, and I think he was game to fight for this belt, but he didn't get a chance to do it because the Charlos had it tied up down there in Texas.
And he's been the interim forever.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is really an eliminator of essentially like when you get an email belt and then your next fight you defend it. It's really just like a preliminary
Right.
chance because there's in the history of boxing there's been boxing matches where a guy gets elevated to a championship status and then defends that in his very next fight and loses it.
Which
It's only happened one time.
And that's only happened one time.
It's only happened one time. There's only been one, and it's worded hilariously. There's only been one, and now maybe that was only WBC. Sorry, there might be more than one outside of the WBC. But a world champion who never won a championship fight.
Who was it?
Ken Norton.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So
Okay.
now if Carlos Adames fails to defend this belt successfully, then it's essentially like, okay, you lost the title, the vacant title eliminator.
Right.
So he's
Right,
not
for all intents
truly
and
a title
purposes,
holder
he's
until he wins this.
Right, he's a title holder for a week,
Right.
essentially. Yeah, doesn't mean too much. Well, I mean, is Gusha going to be an opponent? He's good. He's got talent. He dropped Zoo. He's got power, but I feel like he never shines in big moments. He lost to Laura. He lost to Lubin. He also, of course, lost to Zoo ultimately in that fight. It feels like the moment just won't be there for him.
Yeah, I think Adames is peaking right now. He's probably reaching his best years, and I
Yeah.
hope this could be the kickoff for him to go on a run and dominate the division.
I agree with you. All right, let's take Adames. Next up, undefeated super lightweight Gary Russell versus Albert Puello for the IBF interim 140. Russell, man, 100% KO rate. It's hard to bet against that.
But is his number pulled now? Is it his time? Because Puello is a puncher,
Yeah, puncher and an Olympian, right?
He's been around, yeah, absolutely, and he's got the pedigree from the amateur career, and he's, he had his chance to win a title a couple years ago, and he blew it in the drug test, and he got pulled out of that Romero fight. So here's his chance again, and I think he's going to really want something to happen here. Now, is he going to force it and blow it?
Walk into something.
Yeah, that could happen.
Yeah.
But I don't. Russell, comes from a fighting family, and I think this is going to be a real test. Whoever comes into this, I think this is a true 50-50 fight. Whoever comes out of this is going to be the man, of the day. But I can't call it going in. I'm calling this one a 50-50 fight.
Interesting. What do you think the line? Let's look up the line on it. I'm curious if they got it 50-50. I feel like Russell's going to be a big favorite.
Yeah, Russell, man, the Russell families, people get confused all the time. They don't know which is Gary Antoine or Gary Russell Jr.
It's just the name recognition.
It's that dude from Maryland throwing down again. Even the dad is named Gary, like big Gary. So, you can't get it twisted. You got to make sure you're looking up the right one.
Let's see. Real quick.
Shout out to BoxRec for keeping everything organized out there. Just make sure you update all your boxers' resumes for us and keep us in the loop.
So Adames minus 750. So big favorite there.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It shouldn't be that wide for the Russell fight.
Yeah, minus 600 for
Wow.
Russell. So if it's a true 50-50 fight that you're saying, there's a ton of value in just the money line on Puello.
I mean, I'm no bookmaker. I don't know how they make these things. I think the line is adjusted by the bets, right? It's supposed to be a reflection of the bets that are happening. So
that's what's happening.
But I think I'm telling you, it's name recognition. That's why Russell's favorite. Obviously, you said he's got his KO ratio and stuff, but still, nobody knows the other guy very well.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think there's a whole philosophy of betting that if the line is wrong, take it. Because if you do that, if you put the same bet on a wrong line 4 times and you're right that the line is wrong and it's more of a 50-50 fight, you only need to hit on one to cover your losses if you stay consistent and don't get discouraged. So I take that anytime it's, even if it's not 50-50, but it's just the line is wrong. And I agree with you. I think minus 600 is maybe too big even with the KO streak. So look for some value there, but also look for a close fight. It's going to be good. I don't want to miss this undercard.
You're telling me that the key to success in gambling is hard work and dedication.
That's exactly. And listening to the That's Boxing podcast.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Just keep betting.
Keep betting
Keep
no matter
gambling.
what.
No matter what your
DraftKings.
family says.
Avoid
All opinions expressed on this podcast are not the actual views of our members and do not express any content that you should involve yourself in at any time.
One day we'll be big enough where we actually have to do legal disclaimers. But until then, we're just absolute
We're just
scofflaws.
shooting the shit here.
Yeah, just open ourselves up to all kinds of litigation.
Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, well, speaking of a fight that I think the line is wrong, let's get into Gvozdyk Benavidez. So Benavidez, huge favorite in this fight. Even the KO is like minus 130. So people are really betting Benavidez stops this guy. I feel like the story of this fight is one guy moving up in weight. So does your power travel? How do you hang at this new weight class? And then the other guy, do you still have it? Beterbiev retired him, essentially. He was out of the game for a couple years, came back. This is his 4th fight since coming back. But, he kind of pick some soft targets. Is that how you see this fight? And, where do you have it in terms of a 50-50?
Well, there was a time when Alexander Gvozdyk was, he was the nail. He was a very intimidating boxer. He was highly regarded and up there in the rankings, certainly. Mm-hmm. And then he ran into the hammer.
Yeah, but he hurt him. He hurt him in that fight. He had a good showing. He looked strong.
That was a crazy fight.
Yeah.
Super entertaining and super fun. And you can see why he took a break after that. I mean, that's like climbing the mountain and then jumping off of it.
Yeah.
You could go home and rest for a while. But it's hard to put money on a guy who's coming back from such, he hasn't been completely inactive, but like I said, he's got some soft touches. He's done the right thing for his career. He's not walking off the couch and into Benavidez. It's not, but I don't think it's enough. I think Benavidez is on a tear, and he's a future Hall of Famer. And I think this guy's going to really do something here. I don't think he's going to have any problems with his power because he doesn't have to cut that extra weight.
True.
So every time you drain yourself, you lose a portion of your capabilities.
But he's a softer fighter physically, right? He always has had some bad weight to him, not criticizing him, but just like he's not a bigger guy. He's been bigger because he's been accused of being a weight bully, where he's able to cut down to 168 and then always be the bigger guy in the ring. And he's going to be the naturally much smaller guy in this fight.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. I think physically he's going to look smaller. Now, if his power, and he doesn't really have that one punch knockout power, right? He's got kind of that swarm. I feel like I feel like he throws a lot of semi-hard punches. Like the consistency of the power is very high. And that just is too much. It just breaks people down. But I don't know if Gvozdik's going to be there to get hit like that. I mean, this is a guy with a ton of pedigree, Ukrainian style. And I feel like the Ukrainian stock across the board of all these fighters is super high. And he's going to present a big challenge. He's going to be the bigger fighter. He's got more experience. It's his natural weight class. You know, there's a huge question about his age and his activity and whether he still maybe wants it enough. But he's got a lot of things in his corner in this fight.
Yeah, it definitely makes it interesting. But, it's hard to lean away from Benavidez. I'm really impressed with his abilities in the ring. You know, it wasn't a one-punch KO, but what he landed on Boo Boo with that one punch he landed definitely, was the beginning of the end.
Yep.
He's not the kind of guy to knock a guy spark out like Canelo did to Franklin or whatever I'm saying, where the guy's just out before he even hits the deck like he did to. But, it's interesting. They call him you can call him a weight bully, but he was a heavyweight as a kid and he got bullied, for being fat. And now he's like, okay, now I've changed my whole shit and become a world championship boxer. And now you're calling me the bully?
Right. And he sparred famously with Gvozdyk, and Gvozdyk came out and was like, yeah, he kind of kicked my ass.
Yeah, he kicked everybody's ass in sparring. Yeah. The stories of his gym wars, and I've been, around for it firsthand, the guy, he's got no halfway. He said, you're going to get in here with me, we're going all the way.
Right.
And that's tough as a coach. You say, hey, man, we're not getting paid for this. Now at this level, and that was years ago when that happened, when he was around here. But at this level, I'm sure they're paying their sparring partners well to get their fucking asses kicked.
Yeah,
not nearly as well as the guy who's going to fight him on TV.
True,
but surely enough, he's not just going to be touching you.
Have you been watching any of the behind the scenes like build up promos they put together?
I've missed some of the content because I spent some time out in the woods with the family. Had to get out and disconnect for a while, so I'm a little out of touch with some of the build up here. I haven't seen anything yet.
It's noticeable how absent the Nail is. Like they got a whole episode with Tank and Frank, and then they got a whole episode with Benavidez, and there's like one soundbite. It looked like it was clipped from like an interview with him. Wow. And it's like just nothing. No behind the scenes, no who is he, anything. Which I don't know. I think is interesting. Maybe he was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need that. Maybe it means he's dialed the hell in. I don't know.
I wonder who's training him now. For a while, Teddy Atlas trained him.
Yeah, and Teddy Atlas came out and picked him in this fight.
Well, of course he did, because he, thinks he taught him how to box a little bit once upon a time.
Or maybe he knows something we don't know.
Maybe he does.
So you all in on Benavidez by stoppage?
Yeah.
Yeah? He's going to stop him? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say it, yeah.
See, I'm in the similar boat we were just talking about, where if you really made me put my life on the line, I agree with you. I think Benavidez is the monster. I also have learned my lesson against Boo Boo betting against him, and I think somebody else betting against him. Don't ever bet against Benavidez. This dude manifests stuff, and he walks through people. But if you ask me if he should be a minus 650 favorite, I think that's the wrong line, because if the narrative of this fight plays out a little differently, if the answer to the first question, does Benavidez's power travel perfectly up a weight class, is no, or just not a resounding yes, and the answer to does Gvozdyk still have it is yes, then this fight plays out way differently.
And then we go the distance.
It goes the distance. It looks like a 50-50 fight, and if it goes the distance, Gvozdyk is the favorite for sure. I mean, he's going to look better in there, I think. Benavidez, he has sneaky defense, but he does get hit.
Yeah, he almost likes getting hit.
Yeah, it turns on his motor.
And how is he going to like getting hit at 175 as opposed to like getting hit at 160? Like, you can like getting hit by a guy like Caleb Plant. No disrespect to Sweet Hands, but you might not like it as much when it's a guy like Gvozdyk. And sometimes, we give a lot of credit to power punchers like Beterbiev or Tank Davis. These guys, when they touch the guy, they fall over. But a lot of guys have sneaky power, and it might be slow, but it still thumps you real hard and shakes you to your core. So he might be surprised at this weight class what the punches coming in feel like.
That's what I'm saying. So again, make me put my life on the line. I do think Benavidez travels to 175, has a lot of success. I could see him walking out of this fight with a stoppage. But just for the sake of this podcast, sake of argument, I'm going all in on Gvozdyk. Money line, this guy gets it done. He finds a way.
Wow. Now, I would agree with you if it was 2019. But it's not. It's 2024.
Yeah.
So I can't go with you. We're going toe to toe on this one, then me versus you, dude.
Yeah, I'm gonna look like a fucking genius.
Dude, you know what? That's I fucking hate about boxing sometimes. The broadcasters. I'm always gonna bitch about him. Timothy Bradley. He's trying to be the oracle. It's like his favorite thing when you're watching the Top Rank cards is he's saying, "Oh, he's gonna throw this punch. He's gonna feel it. I feel it. I feel it." Like, bro, put the fucking magic 8-ball down, and just tell me what's happening on TV,
right?
So I can like turn my head away for just a second and not miss him. And then if they do it, he says, "Told you." Or if they don't, he says, "Should have done it."
Right.
And I'm like, get out of here with the
or he used it to set up to punch.
Yeah. You know, I was right somehow or the other. It's like, don't worry about being some oracle of magic that you're gonna predict this perfect thing. Just tell me what the fuck's happening on TV, man.
Did you know? I don't know if you caught the undercard on the Zayas fight, but they did this really interesting thing where I don't know if they were like making coffee and they just got out of the booth, but they were like, "We're going to leave you with the sounds of the ring." And there was just no commentating for an entire fight.
Was it corner cam where they go to the corner?
They did do some corner stuff, but even when they weren't doing the corner, there was just no commentary. And it was nice. And I feel like probably just due to like our attention span and our need for like constant excitement and entertainment, the amount of time that people are talking has increased in fights decade after decade.
Oh yeah, they just want more and more. It'd be like if you're watching a motorcycle race and they're like, "Okay, Jeff, so you see the handle on the right has the throttle,
right,
and the handle on the left has the clutch, and their left foot controls the shifting, and the right, you know." And then so when you watch his left hand move, you'll see he's releasing.
Like I get it, they're driving.
They don't fucking explain the driving. I don't need a fucking boxing lesson while I'm watching TV. This is not how this works.
And it's not radio, so you don't really need a play-by-play and a color person. Like football, whatever, you know, you got somebody literally narrating because some people are driving and they're not watching it.
That's what I want from boxing. He throws a jab and it misses. Oh, he throws a jab and it lands. He's slipping to the left.
I want nothing. I want one guy doing a little bit of that. Oh, he's really looking for that right hand, right? A piece of commentary that adds something to the fight every, you know, whatever, 30 seconds every minute, a couple times around, basically. But other than that, just let me watch them fight, you know?
You know, I don't know if you ever watched the UFC, but they have 3 dudes, and they'll have one guy who's very technical, and then they have the other guy, the Rogan, who's just like very emotional.
That's the guy who tells you not to take the vaccine, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's the third guy who's just like the ad guy. They'll be like, "Oh, wow. Oh, he's going for the takedown. Oh, well, if he goes into full mount and puts the armbar," and the other guy goes, "Don't forget to check out that new movie coming out to you live on it." Like
There's
in
like
the middle
ad
of the
guy?
in the ad guy in the middle of the fight.
Damn, Dana White.
He'd be
is
like,
cold.
"Remember that this is brought to you by Proper 12 Whiskey." and he's going for the takedown. I'm just like, damn, they got the whole staff, so they've taken it to the next level, you know. But they put an ad during the ESPN card for UFC. With the quote at the end saying, "There's nothing like it," and I'm like, "Wow,
thumbing it right in the eye of the dying sport."
Dana White's going for it.
We got to change this over to UFC podcast.
We eventually will. We will get the takedown.
I got to learn all this ground game bullshit.
I cornered or assisted in a corner and I asked the commissioner. I said, "How do you score these moments when they're on the ground?"
Yeah,
when it's like what I've heard called the lay and pray style, where you get them down, you pin them down, and you just hold them, and you're not advancing the position, you're not going for a submission. And he's like, "Well, it's just whoever's in control." And then as the clock ticks by, the judges are supposed to be like, "Okay, he's in control."
Huh.
And it's very interesting to consider because it's hard enough for boxing judges to get it right, and they're standing there throwing with 2 hands.
Right.
Now you got to think about the UFC. They got hands, feet.
And like weight displacement, like that guy's hips were in a better position on this other, so he's holding them better.
Right.
That's
I don't
tough.
know, man. Well, that's enough about the UFC.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna split it on this fight and see. That'll be interesting. I will say Gvozdyk sent Adonis Stevenson to the hospital, so we're gonna end on that for my pick. Let's get into Tank and Frank, the Ghost versus the Tank.
Wow.
What I mean, I can lead off with my hot take on this one, but let's hear how you see this fight.
I mean, come on, it's the Tank show.
Yeah,
it's the Gervonta Davis show. He comes out once a year and puts on a show, and I expect him to do the same. Now he's going to have a little more resistance than he did in his last fight. I think Frank's a much better boxer than Ryan Garcia was, much better boxer than Jose Luis Garcia was before that. When you remember, he went back-to-back Garcias. Our guy Tank did.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
So
then was Rolly was before that.
Yeah, right. So he kind of rolled through some easy opposition.
Yeah.
And now he's facing a guy who's actually legitimate. You know, he's a much more pure boxer. Mm-hmm. And he's got a good punch, and he's a southpaw.
Yep. So you think Tank is locked in, being incarcerated 44 days, 14-month layoff, changing his faith? He's got a lot of stuff going on.
Did that stick? Because I haven't heard anybody talking about the
True. Didn't he change his name too? I don't. Yeah.
I saw some headlines and some comments, and then but during all this pre-fight stuff, they've been referring to him as Tank Davis.
But regardless, dude's got a lot going on in his life, a lot of trouble. But I will say, the man is dedicated to the sport for sure. I mean, he looks like he's always training, always in shape, always ready to go, even with all that stuff going on. So you don't see any derailment in the Tank train.
No, I believe that he's able to overcome these things. He's not like Broner, where he doesn't have the team around him. That's one thing Tank said in the build-up to one of his more recent fights. He said something. They said, "Hey, how do you keep yourself grounded? How do you handle this pressure? How do you stay so cool?" Because he does come across as a very cool character.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he said, "I keep the same people with me, and I do the same thing every day." Mm-hmm. And he's had the same squad forever.
Just like we were talking about.
He's got these problems in his personal life, had some jail time, did some fucked up shit. But I think you're going to be all right. The boxer is going to be okay. And I think he's going to come out and take care of business. Now, Frank's going to put it on him, and he's going to try his best. But the harder you try against a counterpuncher, the harder you try to force a win, the less likely you're going to get it, and the more likely you're going to get cracked. So if Frank has a good plan, and hopefully Derek James put one together, we're going to see a slow start and a very patient Martin, who's like, hey, this guy loses rounds. Let's just stack up rounds.
Yep.
So if there's any kind of fireworks, Davis might have to force them.
Yeah. I wonder if I in my fantasy, I guess, Shakur hit up Martin with the game plan advice, because if there's anybody out there that I think can beat Tank, and I don't know if he does beat Tank, it would be Shakur. And that's because he's so disciplined, so defensively sound that he could, like you just said, stack up rounds, take it one round at a time. And Tank finds himself in that position where he's like, oh shit, it's the 7th. I got to turn this on. Oh damn, it's the 9th. I really got to find something. Mm-hmm. Shit, it's the 12th round. And he just doesn't find the window because you just never give it to him. I think that's the blueprint to beat Tank. I mean, Frank looks, he's got a punch, don't get me wrong. He looks jacked. He looks in shape. He's going to look like the more scary guy. But he doesn't have that power that Tank has. And I don't think he's going to get that level of respect. And he doesn't want to be anywhere in the mid-range or in the pocket with Tank, who's going to find some sneaky little uppercut, step back, and take him out. So I don't know if he has the discipline. But he's not a household name, but he's a very quality boxer. And he started late, but I feel like he's a student of the game, and you could tell he really absorbs everything that Derek has taught him, and he stays, very defensively responsible, very tight. He's a quality technician in the ring, and I'm curious to see how that plays out, whether he can keep it that together for that long, or how Tank kind of cracks that code.
Yeah, I think we might see a common theme repeat itself here, where the co-main event is actually the more spectacular event, and the headliner is more technical. And I predict Benavidez, he creates openings. He forces the action. Right. He walks through you and puts you down. Where Tank, he'll sit back and wait.
Right.
Was the statistic that came out that the first punch he landed on Garcia knocked him down.
Yeah.
It's like,
he's I believe still the most economic puncher, right? Throws the least.
So match that with that. Give it right back to him and say, no, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to feint and I'm going to stick. The crowd's going to start booing. But if you have the discipline to don't try to please the crowd, you're going to end up like Rolando Romero, falling face first into a KO punch.
Right.
You can't force it against a counterpuncher. So it'd be great to see like a Sugar Ray Leonard-esque performance here, to like he put on in the No Mas fight. Say, I'm going to stick, I'm going to move, I'm going to clown, I'm going to dance, I'm going to say, come get me. Right. Counterpuncher. Come get me.
Force Tank to go on the front foot and come and find you, and
which he has done before, because he does good work off the front foot. How do you think he knocked out Leo Santa Cruz? He had Leo Santa Cruz up on the ropes. How did he get him on the ropes? He put his high guard up and walked him down.
True.
But he was the kid was way out of his weight class at that point, Santa Cruz. He shouldn't have been fighting it that way.
But he still found that vicious uppercut and took him out of there. Yeah, it's probably his most highlight reel knockout.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're going to see a highlight reel KO. You remember that he went the distance with Pitbull, and I think there might have been an injury in his hand there that kept it going that long. But you could see there was a little bit of worry when they started reading the cards because
Yeah.
it wasn't that dominant.
No, he's not a round winner. I mean, I would love to see his whole career, like all rounds scored up if he's over the 50% mark. I feel like he's not. I feel like he loses more rounds than he wins.
Yeah.
Which is fine because that's his style. But again, that's where I say I feel like that's the path to beat him. I don't think Frank will be able to do it. I think he's just not at that level, which is an ambiguous thing to say. Like, 'cause it's hard to put my finger on what exactly it is that Frank lacks because he's a very complete fighter. But as they say, I think there's just levels to this, and Tank is one above, and he's going to stay there. And this is a stoppage victory for Tank.
Okay. Yeah, and one last thing I'll say about it is Tank has reached a level that is beyond the sport of boxing. And if he loses this fight, it's not going to really matter. He's still going to be everybody's favorite. And he might actually make him more endearing.
Yeah, if he's humble and defeating. I mean, if he loses on points, but he kind of but like, let's say he drops him right at some point in the fight, but then loses on points. I feel like that doesn't take a lot of luster off Tank. You're like, yeah, I already know he loses rounds. He just couldn't stop this guy. But if he gets stopped, I think that does take his stock down.
Well, I don't see that happening. Frank talks about his brick hand and how he said he cracked him with it in sparring.
He doesn't talk about it. Tank talks about it. Tank's the one that called him brick hands after they sparred.
Supposedly their sparring session got pretty rowdy and turned into a wrestling match.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And now that's a prediction we didn't talk about. Are they going to box or are they going to wrestle? That could be interesting.
Yeah, the ground game. The
Two
UFC
southpaws.
game.
Two southpaws. I mean,
yeah, you think it's going to be awkward and just bad style, bad matchup?
But they're going to both load up on that big left hand, and whoever lands it first,
Yeah. I feel like Tank always looks for the uppercut, the kind of sneaky punch like that he just fits in there. I mean, with Rolly, it was a check hook, right? That got him, or a check rear hand as he stepped out of the way.
Rear, kind of a step over and shoot the rear, step.
He's
punch,
a little more creative. Frank is a little more, I think, tight with his defense, straight punches, movement, turning, just a little more traditional.
He knocked down Virgil Ortiz in amateurs?
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah, see, so he's got some something.
Yeah, he knocked down a lot of guys, and when that punch lands, they're definitely affected by it. But is that gonna happen? Is Tank gonna get cracked? Is he gonna fall down? I mean, there's a lot of what ifs in this fight, but I think the smart money and the smart choice is Tank KO.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I will say, I've had a lot of friends be like, "Wait, Tank or Frank who? Like, is this just another, bullshit opponent for Tank?" And I don't think it is. I think it's a good quality opponent.
I'd ask you to question those friends and ask them to tell you 10 boxers because they might not be able to do.
True.
They're going to go, okay, Tank and Mayweather and Tyson and so
yeah, Tank should fight all of them.
We're an educated podcast and we're true boxing fans, so we're gonna always put respect on the guy who's not considered a favorite just because he's not a household name. That's what I was saying about the Russell family with the name recognition. If you know the name, then you expect him to win. But it's the theater of the unexpected, and it's a boxing match, and I want to see a good quality competitive match, and Frank is going to be able to do that. Win, lose or draw, Frank's coming to fight.
Yeah, I was curious now. Looking up ESPN rankings to just see, who Tank even could be fighting. But these are bizarre. Is this an old?
ESPN at 140?
135?
Oh, sorry, yeah, 135.
Let's see.
Yeah, you got your belt holders. Obviously, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Loma's got the belt. Matias has got the belt. He's got the belt. And your boy over there's got the belt, Baranchyk.
How is this lightweight division? Linares number 1, Mikey Garcia number 2.
Would you find like something from the ancient web?
That's what I'm saying.
Boxing scene 2017.
Yeah, it is. It's 2015, but this links off the ESPN homepage to lightweight. I was like, what if I?
All right, ESPN, you got to update your links because you just took us way too far in the past.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I'll go to Box Live.
No, I was a contender in 2017. Come on.
You were listed on there?
Let's roll it back. Yeah, let's list it on something. Oh, man. So.
All right, here we go. This is, I use Box Live. So, Lomachenko, number 1. Number 2, Davis. 3, Zepeda. Then Stevenson. Martin, number 5. There you go. He's
That's great.
fighting a top 5 guy. There's not a lot of names. Then you got Brenchek. Interesting. Stock's high. Ukrainian stock. See, I'm telling you. Murataya, Davis, Chamberlain, Abulev. All right. So, I mean, I guess I think for people to shut up, Tank has got to fight Loma or Stevenson. Maybe Zepeda. But this is a great fight.
Well, whatever Tank does, it's not going to be till next year. He's a once-a-year guy.
Yeah, 18 months from now, he'll fight
Yeah,
again.
he'll do something spectacular.
Yeah. All right, well, great card,
Yep.
top to bottom. A lot of, I think, fights that could be 50-50 fights or look to be 50-50 fights, and that's what you want to see in boxing, kind of the best at the best.
Yeah,
So,
and this is a big fight for the primetime thing, the Amazon Prime, so
yeah.
this should be a big deal.
And then, of course, at the same time, there's another card going on in Puerto Rico, right?
Puerto Rico.
Yeah, Matthias versus Pero.
Yes.
Why can they not put this fight on Friday? Like, they know it's a small community of people. We want to watch both these cards. Why put them on at the same time?
Yeah, we're going to have to dual screen it to catch up with that. But, it's a big card. There's 8 or 9 fights on there and a lot of names I'm not familiar with. They got a lot of local guys down there, a lot of South American fighters. But the top of the bill is a world title fight with the boogeyman of the division against a tough Australian kid. So we're going to see what happens there. I'm expecting Matthias, he's lost before. He's been down before. He's struggled. But Amparo's strong as an ox, man. He's coming off the win against Montana Love where he made him look foolish, which is his most notable win and definitely put him on the map. But mostly because of Love, because Love had made himself kind of a social media star with his antics and his behavior and his kind of modern Broner-esque thing, and then he got, he lost by disqualification, and then he against Spark, and then he comes out and he gets KO'd, not unconscious, TKO'd against this guy, Paro, who looked just incredibly strong and dominant in there. So can he repeat that success? I don't know, because you can't compare Montana Love to Subriel Matias, man. These guys are not on the same class,
Matias, I think, just has that surprising power where you can't really prepare for it, and you get in there and you get hit with something and you're like, fuck. I can't do it.
Yeah, I don't expect this one to go the distance. I think Paro's going to give it his best shot, and you know how these Australians do it. They lean into the storm.
Right.
And they run into real trouble doing it.
Yeah.
Like we saw recently in the Valdez fight when he beat Smith. So if this kid leans into it and tries to muscle his way out of this thing over 12 rounds, he's not going to make it through. The only chance he's got is to sit back and dance. And I don't think that's going to happen for him. I don't think that's in his style. He's known for being aggressive. He's known for being a good puncher. And I think he's going to try to punch his way out of trouble, and it's going to get him right into trouble.
Yeah. Well, it should make for a great fight. It's kind of what you want to see, the storm at the storm.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, just what fighter will be, you'll be trying to watch one with one eye and one eye with the other eyeball. Hopefully it happens in between, while somebody's doing their hour-long ring walk or something on the Prime card.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
you could, flip over here and watch.
It's nice when the timing works out that way, and you're like, okay. But also, some of them let you run it back, and that's always nice too. Like the end of the night or whatever. Like if it wraps up early, and you're like, oh, I got one more little bonus fight to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's how it should be.
Well, let's wrap this thing up and get out of here. But I got one question I want to end with. I'm gonna hit you with this surprise question. If there was one thing in the sport of boxing or the culture of boxing that you could just delete, just remove, what would it be?
Weight cutting.
So you'd have like a rehydration clause, like day of.
Yeah, just to force the system back to more natural weight fighters.
Mm-hmm.
Just get rid of that whole, weight cutting system.
Just not like they weigh you on the way to the ring.
Yeah.
I like it.
Just be you in there, man.
Yeah.
I would think it would even things out a lot.
So you'd end Devin Haney's career.
And a lot of other guys too.
Yeah.
And if I had a second choice there, I would say like a fighters union or some kind of, some kind of
the Jake Paul program.
You got to help these guys out. Winky Wright said the other day, "Oh, I'm broke." Like this guy made millions of bucks.
Yeah.
It's sad as shit. So
yeah, I mean, I put that on them, I guess, a little bit, but yeah, you're right. I mean, there should at least be like a health insurance pool, and like you sign up for your union dues and your card, and maybe even you give a percent of your purse to be a member, but you get contractual negotiating advantages and healthcare and
So weight cutting and business, management.
I like it.
What about you?
Well, I think the obvious one for me would be have Turki Al-Sheikh buy all of the sanctioning bodies, right? Essentially Dana White the industry, because that's
Yeah.
obviously what needs to happen in boxing is
Just one belt system.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it makes the sport interesting. It adds a political dimension to it, which is like always filled with drama, but I don't think it's actually healthy for the sport.
Yeah, it makes it confusing for new fans and casual fans to even understand. You watch a fight, like, no disrespect to Zayas and Shushu, but Shushu finishes that fight and he's covered in belts.
Right.
And I'm telling you, what are these belts?
Because you're the intercontinental interim,
Yeah, and I'm like, I get it. Like a North American Boxing Association belt is a big deal. That means you're the best in America.
Yeah.
Intercontinental Americas now, you're the best in the hemisphere. But it's like, it's so confusing for fans. Like, just make it one fucking belt, one guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also, I mean, it's created a bizarre economy in boxing that might be the death of the sport, right? Because right now we got another country just subsidizing boxing, which is fantastic, but not going to last forever. And the way you get a boxer saying, I need X amount of money, that's more money than the fight will generate to fight somebody, means that fight is not economically possible. And I get it. If I'm a fighter, of course, I want to maximize my earning potential. I want to get paid the most, period. I don't care if it's good for the sport or not. But that needs to change. And you need one sanctioning body that just says, look, this is what this fight is worth. And it'd be great if they had it as a contractual, like it's just set up with a boxers union that negotiates.
Yeah, that feeds right into the union concept where, like, hey, you are now a professional boxer. You are boxing in the professional boxing league.
Right.
And this is the contract, and this is what you gain, and this is what you have to sacrifice.
Well, and you combine the CBA, collective bargaining agreement of all the boxers, to the same requirement of the promoters. So you just say, hey, promoter, if you want to throw a fight, you have to give away 70% of the purse to the fighters. Now, to either the split between the fighters, that's for y'all to negotiate. But 70% of the gross proceeds of the fight have to go to the fighters. So your margin's fixed at 30%.
That way we don't end up in a UFC situation where it's flip-flopped and the fighters are making 30.
Exactly.
And the organization is making...
Or the fighters are making 5. I don't know what percentage.
You know, Dana White came out and said something about how his slap competition league is worth some millions of dollars now, $750
There's
million.
Some app, right? That's like probably huge in Russia.
Oh my god, it's fucking ridiculous, dude.
Yeah,
but because how much do you think they're paying the guy to slap the other guy?
Oh yeah, nothing.
Yeah, like $20.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you win, 50, 25 the other way. Yeah. So I think that's the obvious thing in boxing that's probably necessary for the sport to survive. But if I could remove, tongue in cheek, one thing, it would be this quote unquote face of boxing question. I hate this question. It's like, who's the face of boxing? What does that even mean? The most famous boxer? Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, maybe Canelo. Like, those are the most famous, but are they the face? I don't even know what this means. People just think, oh, I got a signature win, I'm the face. It's like, bro, probably no one that doesn't watch boxing knows who you are. It's not the best. Terrence Crawford is the best, but he's definitely, or Usyk's the best, but they're not the face because no one knows who they are. So it's just a dumb question that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, I agree. And that just comes from people's trying to apply like football concepts to boxing, like your team, like where we won the Super Bowl or something. But boxing just never stops. There's no Super Bowl. There's no end. There's no yearly repeat.
Right.
It's just an endless stream of fighting and fighting and fighting. So even if you do get to call yourself the face today, who are you going to be tomorrow?
Right.
So why make that even a goal?
Yeah, that's true. And the closest we have to the Super Bowl is someone like Canelo getting undisputed, so having all the belts and then staying that way for so long that they just become synonymous with ownership of that division. But like we were just talking about, that comes with so many political aspects that you're ducking mandatories, or the sanctioning bodies aren't making people mandatory, or you're paying step-aside fees that it's not really from your skill.
Too much money involved. If it was ran like a different sport, they'd be like, oh, you're injured, you're out. Sorry. Right. Moving on. The show continues.
Yeah.
But the in boxing, the main event has got all the power.
Yeah.
To be in control in the driver's seat. And the product is the boxer, and he gets to control the show. There's no backup. There's no backup quarterback. The show can't go on if this guy's out. So that's what happened with this Tyson thing. Now they're postponed until November or December.
Right.
and they're gonna make everybody wait. I mean, imagine if even a guy who an assistant trainer like myself or a photographer who had booked the event or something. Everybody just gotta wait.
Right.
And it's like, man, in football and different sports, say show goes on, man, roll in the backup.
I mean, that's kind of a crazy concept. If you piggybacking on the fight we just saw where you had promoter stables, you just said, all right, instead of booking this fighter versus this fighter, we're going to book this promotional company versus this other one. And then it's like, y'all just got to put up.
Yeah, if you better have somebody,
And you keep it secret until that night, and then you unveil it, whoever it is. And then they just got to go in there and fight right then.
That's kind of wild.
That would be crazy. That's what we should do. That's the next fight, man.
They're trying to make changes in boxing. I don't know if you heard about the Team Combat League, but they're doing this thing where you have a team of boxers and they box 1 or 2 rounds, and then they add up all the rounds at the end of the night.
Like a tag team kind of thing?
Not quite tagging, but because there's one person for every weight class. And then...
but you only box a couple rounds?
Yeah, you only box a couple rounds. I know a couple people involved in it. There's a lady boxer here from Portland, Brittany Sims, is doing it. She's out there representing Philly. I don't know if she's from there or whatever, but she's fighting for like the Philly boxing team. And there's a kid we sparred with a couple times from Vegas who's out there doing it too. And it's a bizarre concept, but they're putting people in the ring and they're putting on a show.
Right.
And
it's hard for me to picture it because there's so much momentum involved in putting a fight together. But I'm curious. I mean, anytime you mess with the formula, it's always interesting stuff happens.
Yeah. But when you go back to the big money fights, that's when it just gets messy again. Because this team combat thing, they're making, modest amount of money.
Yeah, misfits.
But, misfits money for sure. And it's good for, say you're a young boxer. You got a guy who's trying to transition to the pros, but he's not quite ready for it. Get him some experience with his headgear off in front of a crowd with no pressure. Right. That's not a bad idea. But if you really want to build a complete fighter, we need a better system, a complete system.
Yeah.
Right? To say, now you're in this league, you have become this person. Because no offense to some guys who have gotten out there and got the job done, but not all pro boxers are even playing the same game.
Yeah.
As far as their ability or the promotion they're fighting for. Somewhere in Wyoming, there's some boxing fighting happening in a barn right now that's probably sanctioned. It's got the real deal. But it can't hold a candle to what's happening down the road in Las Vegas.
Right.
It's like, why? How much inequality there is. From the payment to the standard to the skill, it's absurd. There's nobody in the NFL that can't play the fucking game. There's plenty of pro boxers that are terrible at boxing.
Yeah, there's some famous like A&R quote in the music industry that hey, if talent was what we were looking for, I would just go down to the front row of every Baptist church Sunday morning and pull the first 3 people I saw, and you'd have the best singers. But that's not what it's about. It's about all these intangible other things, and it's an interesting question to apply it to sports. Like, I wonder how many boxers there are out there that are just cold, nice, like let's say would be world champions if they had that shot, but aren't discovered or aren't known, and we'll never know the answer because there's so much finesse and so much else going into it.
The next heavyweight champion of the world is probably working in a coal mine in West Virginia right now.
Yeah.
Stooped over, lumping coal, but you put that guy in a boxing gym and he could just hammer a hole right through the wall.
I took a note. Ali Feliz, that's the next heavyweight world champion. I'm calling it right here.
Wow. Okay, mark the date.
There's some problems there, but he fought on the undercard of the Zayas card this weekend, and I was just super impressed with him. And I love watching undercard where it's a guy I'd never heard of before. I think it was his second fight, and he looked great. And I'd love to see him in something next. So keep that name, Ali Feliz, in the back of your head next time he fights.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that, man. That's what we do here at That's Boxing. We're always looking out for the next thing. We're always supporting the underdog, and we're always supporting the real hardworking boxers and boxing fans out there.
That's us. Well, let's wrap this thing up and let's get out of here. I'm Dust.
I'm Coach.
And that's boxing.